Hey, what is going on, guys? In this video today, we're going to be discussing one of the main reasons why players don't get better at Fortnite. And this video is actually going to be pretty different than what I normally do. I actually want to start off by reading an interesting piece of writing by a guy named Klemm. If you follow Fortnite competitive, you may have heard his name before. He's on Team Vanish, he does some work with pro guides, I believe he was involved with coaching a while back, and he's obviously played his fair share of top level competitive Fortnite as well. Now the writing I'm going to read from here is about a year old at this point, but when I randomly stumbled upon it a few weeks ago, I was really blown away by how well it was written, and also how much I agreed with most of what he was saying. So obviously, since this is a video about why players don't get better, that's kind of the main topic of the writing, and without further ado, let's get right into it. Alright, so here we go. A majority of you would agree that there are physical mechanics in Fortnite. We build up muscle memory by repeating the same arm and hand movements, which eventually creates precise aim and build mechanics. The falsehood of this statement is the fact that the word muscle memory isn't as it sounds. In terms of practicing and acquiring any anatomical skill, our muscles have very little to do with our ability to repeat the same movement. Instead, those repetitions get encoded into our brain. Repeating any anatomical movement, whether it being right or wrong for our target task, will get encoded into our brains over time. This means practicing something incorrectly also gets encoded as well. What often gets overlooked is this encoding process doesn't only apply to the physical side of Fortnite, but also the cognitive side as well. The benefits of being talented in terms of physical mechanics are obvious, but the cognitive side of the game is exponentially more important. Just like a physical mechanic, making an incorrect mental mistake, bad rotation, or an overall bad play will get encoded into our brains if not identified and mentally corrected. For example, if you mess up a physical mechanic in creative, you would hopefully slightly change your rhythm and movements, which would then lead to you perfecting that skill over time. The problem is, as players, we completely ignore what I'm going to call the cognitive mechanics inside Fortnite. In other words, encoding non-muscle memory related aspects of the game into our brains. Improving your cognitive mechanics is even more important than physical mechanics, and here's why. There's a ceiling when it comes to physical mechanics in terms of overall build knowledge, build speed, and aim precision, a lot of which is determined by the servers, latency, and Epic's limitations. In my opinion, we've already seen players come extremely close to reaching this ceiling. On the other hand, the ceiling for cognitive mechanical development is unreachable. So bring this all full circle, in Fortnite there will always be a skill gap. Up to this point, it's widely seen as a physical mechanic-based skill gap for the most part, and obviously competitive experience plays a large role as well, but you get what I'm saying. If we all take a step back and really dive into what's going on in our brain every second we're playing Fortnite, it can all be traced back to one thing, and that one thing is our nervous system. And just quick warning, this short part is going to be a little sciencey, so just try to follow along. Our brains take the visual and audible signals from Fortnite, interprets those signals, retrieves information from our long-term memory, and then sends a signal to our muscles to react accordingly. A simple example of this is how we place a wall in the direction of the bullets immediately after getting shot. Although we do this in what feels like instantly, the entire process must be completed prior to that wall actually getting placed. No matter what we're doing in game, our brains have to go back to the long-term storage, find an answer, then send a signal for our muscles to react, and that's again basically the definition of physical mechanics and muscle memory. So hopefully that all makes sense, but at this point you're probably thinking, okay Klemm, that all makes sense and everything, but what exactly is your point? Well, you see, my point is every aspect of Fortnite is cognitive in some way, shape, or form. By encoding more and more game knowledge into our brain, by VOD reviewing our bad and good games, watching other players, and just cognitively thinking while playing, you can almost hack the system and flood your long-term memory with information that it didn't even know it had. A majority of the time, something you saw on a stream or learned that got encoded into your memory will be unconsciously done in-game without you even consciously recognizing it. By further developing the unconscious diagram in our brains on what to do, what not to do, and everything in between, you will exponentially grow as a player. Imagine it like one of those input and output tables from grade school math. There are millions of different inputs and outputs when playing the game. Every time we experience a new, unfamiliar, or just uncomfortable situation, which happens a ton, our brain provides an output response which could be either right or wrong. The times we panic is due to our brain not being able to properly find one of these output response plays based on memory. By widening our information intake via playing the game, watching others play, or VOD reviewing, and also making sure we're doing the right output action as frequently as possible, we make fewer mistakes, making ourselves better every day. What I'm getting at is that everyone at some point is going to hit some kind of physical mechanic ceiling. When that happens, the players who begin to put more of an emphasis on the cognitive mechanics of the game will continue to get better and better. The more as a player you take into consideration what exactly your brain is encoding and what you want it to encode, you'll find yourself panicking less, making faster decisions, and overall playing more relaxed. The people who make an effort to study the game, cut down on wasteful in-game time, and balance their cognitive and physical practice time will be the ones who thrive. So there you go. I alluded to this in the intro. I'm sure you guys can tell that was written by someone very smart who really knows what they're talking about. And in my opinion, almost everything he wrote there is more applicable to console players than anybody else on Fortnite. I've talked so many times before about the disadvantages of playing on console, you know, those things, the lower FPS, more input lag, worse response time, and graphics, and when you combine all those things together, they affect mechanical skill so severely. That's why I find it really funny when PC pros watch console players and criticize how stiff and bad mechanically they look. I truly believe that even if you took a mechanical god like Clicks and put him on console, even though it would be the same player with the same mechanical skill, you wouldn't even be able to recognize him compared to PC Clicks because of how lowered the mechanical skill ceiling is on console. But even though it's hard to be a mechanical god if you play on PS4 or Xbox, when it comes to decision making or cognitive mechanics as Klemm called it, FPS and input lag really doesn't impact that much at all. I remember that when I 1v1 Isaac a few months ago, I was actually able to beat him the majority of the time even when I leveled the playing field by hopping on console. But at the end of the day, Isaac would outplace me in competitive pretty much every day of the week, and he's just generally one of the most successful competitive console players of all time. So if you feel that you're hitting some kind of mechanical skill ceiling, it's not that you shouldn't try to break through it, but most times the better idea would be to focus on improving your cognitive mechanics instead by following the advice that Klemm gave in his paper. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you watched the entire thing, be sure to let me know with a comment down in the comment section below. What do you think is more important when it comes to being a successful Fortnite player? Physical mechanics like building, editing, and aim, or mental mechanics like having high in-game IQ and good decision making? Be sure to leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe, turn on post notifications, do whatever the heck you want, and I will catch you guys next time.